All right, so now we're going to take a look at the relative clause. The relative clause. The relative clause is a type of dependent clause led by a relative pronoun. When you think relative pronoun, think whose, whiches, and that's. Okay, whose, whiches, and that's. And it's only formatted this way as an auditory mnemonic. Okay, you probably will not see this terminology anywhere else, but this is the way it was taught to me, so this is the way I teach it. Shout out to the late Dr. Annie J. Sistrunk. All right, whose, whiches, and that's. Let's see what I'm talking about. So, for example, all right. The student who runs fastest tires the most. Do you see any whose, whiches, or that's in here? If necessary, go on and pause and then come back. I'm going to keep going. So we have a who, right? We have a who. Who is a relative pronoun, and pronouns are automatically noun phrases, and then it's followed by a verb, right? So we have dun dun dun, a clause, okay? So this noun phrase, this pronoun is a noun phrase, and it's a subject because it precedes this verb. So we have a clause here. All right. Later on, we'll talk about bound and non-restrictive relative clauses. Right now, we're just doing an introduction. So I know you have some questions. Hold tight. Okay. The student who runs fastest tires the most. This is a clause embedded in a larger independent clause. Okay? But just know that this is the meat of your relative clause. Let's try another one. All right. The plant that died belonged to the newbie. The plant that died belonged to the newbie. Can you point out the relative clause? If necessary, go on and pause and then come back. I'm going to keep going. All right. So we have a that, right? Our whose, whiches, and that's. We have a that. That is a relative pronoun, which makes it an automatic noun phrase, and it precedes the verb here. So it means this baby is a subject. Right? So we have another clause embedded in a larger independent clause, right? Let's look at one more. All right. Our newspaper, which is my favorite luxury, rarely arrives late. Can you point out the relative clause? If you need to, go on and pause and then come back. I'm going to keep going. We have which is our subject. It's an automatic noun phrase, but it's a subject because, not because it's a noun phrase, but why? Because it's followed by this verb here. So we have another clause. And you might notice something different with this construct. This relative clause is offset by commas, right? And we'll discuss that when we talk about bound and non-restricted relative clauses. But our newspaper, which is my favorite luxury, rarely arrives late. Okay, so we have a who, a which, and a that. Keep that in mind. Relative clauses are not relegated to who, which, and that. There are variation of who, hence the whos, because we'll have to discuss whos and whom, but that's later on. For introductory purposes, we are working with this. If you need to watch this again, go ahead, but make sure that you consult it when you do your practice exercise, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.